Okay, this is a quick run through of the things you need to do for the collaborative exercise for TMA 04. We're already a week into it, so you should have done the first couple of things already, but it may help just to go through the whole thing. And I want to point out a couple of things which I think you really need to concentrate on in order to get the best out of it. That's the main thing here tonight. I'm just going to try a bit of jiggery-pokery to get a document up on the screen, so wait a minute. Not that one. How about that one? This is a summary of the activity starting obviously last week. That's the bit where you had to agree among your group on a set of criteria, and you also each had to choose your own organisation that interests you as a place to work. Now, first thing here, if you've already made this decision, I apologise, but it's something that I've noticed from year to year occasionally. The assignment rubric doesn't say that you can't choose your own organisation. And occasionally people have done that, either because they think it's going to be easier or because they think I've got any time or whatever, I don't know. But when that's happened, almost invariably the results turns out to be less good quality than where people have chosen an organisation that they don't work for. I don't know why that is. I can speculate as to reasons. All I want to say is that you can choose your own organisation if you want to. The rubric doesn't forbid it, but I don't recommend it because you won't get as much out of the exercise, it seems. The other thing that people sometimes do is they forget to make a response to activity 16.1 task B, which is their own response to the Chartered Managers Institute, whatever it is, article that you have in activity 16.1 for that task. People sometimes forget to put their reaction into the subgroup forum, so do please remember to do that. Now, week 17, the week we're in now, you should be investigating the organisation you've chosen to write about and finding out material that will help with the various criteria that you've got. Now there's a couple of things here. The first is that very often people seem to leave their critical faculties behind. Any organisation, obviously, you'll go to the organisation's website and have a look around, and that's fine, but take it with a pinch of salt. I've lost count of the number of times that an organisation has said about itself, it's the world leader in producing widgets or whatever, and the student has duly reported in their assessment that X is the world leader in widgets. You can't say that. You can say that X claims to be the world leader in widgets, but without corroborating evidence, usually from somewhere else. It's not a claim that you can make directly, so be careful in terms of evaluating and giving the proper weight, the proper reliability to the sources that you have. You've got the same problem at the other end of the scale. If you go to some of the job review sites, you will see lots of individual assessments, if you're lucky, of your company by people who've worked there. Some of them almost inevitably will be hatchet jobs. Some of them will be, they look as if they've been planted by the company's press office. You've got to exercise your skill of evaluation there according to what they look like. You know, if there's only 3 answers there and they all trash the company, that's not enough. They might be 3 disgruntled people. If there's a lot, then it begins to look a bit more reliable. If there's a spread of different kinds of opinion, then again, what's there may give you a better picture of the company. So you've got to keep your wits about you when you're evaluating the evidence that you give, the evidence that you find. That's this week. Next week, you have to swap. I've given you the swaps in the subgroup forums, and so you need to give your first draft to other people to feedback on, and you feedback on to other people. Now this is a point where you need to keep an eye on the dates and on who's contributing. If somebody hasn't turned up, If somebody hasn't said thank you for your draft, I'll have a look at it, then you need to make sure, try and get in touch with them, leave messages in the forum and so on, and see that they're aboard. I will be keeping an eye on this, and if necessary I will rearrange who does feedback for whom. It usually works absolutely fine. Only once or twice in the 8 years I've been doing this course does it go wrong, is somebody left in the lurch, and those few occasions have all been solvable. So it is something to look out for. Part of the point of the exercise is that you are working in a group and you're experiencing what group work is like when you depend on other people to produce stuff that you need. So that might be a bit where it gets slightly hairy, but don't panic, deal with it. And then in the final week you get your reviews back and you produce a final draft, taking into account the feedback that you've got from your two reviewers. The important thing there is the phrase taking into account. You don't have to do what they say. If you don't do what they say, you need to put in something to say why you didn't. If you incorporate somebody's amendment, it's there in the text. If you don't incorporate it, you probably have good reasons for doing so. You need to say what they are so that I can see how well you've responded to the feedback. And then the whole thing is due in by March the 3rd, and I'm just looking at what I've written for week 19, and I think I may have missed something else. You've got to put in your own 2,000 word report, you've got to put in a bibliography, you've got to put in the original 1,500 word report, you've got to put in the feedback that you have received. You also need to put in the feedback that you gave to other people. So that's something I'll put a mention of into the tutor group forum just to make sure that everybody remembers it. That's that for the general setup of dates, times, deadlines, so on and so forth. I'm coming back to OU Live just briefly. Actually, in fact, I don't need to, because what I'm going to do is go straight back to another application and share. This is a little rubric which I drew up a couple of years ago and has proved to be a little bit helpful. One of the things that happens with this exercise is that you are supposed to be using the theories that you've come across so far. You're supposed to be examining the data you have with a theoretical eye as well as with your own investigative eye. And one thing that I found consistently over the years is that when students do their reviews of each other, they're very good at telling each other that they haven't used enough theory, but terrible at actually doing it themselves. Here is an attempt to help you to get around that. It's downloadable from the tutor group forum. You can get one, or you can make your own. So on under criterion, that's where you write your list of criteria. In the column details with critique, that's where you put in the information that you've got gleaned from the various websites and places you've been to and so on and so forth for each criterion. And you can add things, bits and pieces, you can jot down. It will become quite a messy document in the end because you're adding bits and pieces and chopping them about and perhaps putting a bit of thinking in as to why something is reliable and why something isn't and so on and so forth. But eventually you'll have all the material there, at least in note form, to respond to the criterion that you're working on. When you've got that, then go to the theory column and go down each criterion in turn, look for a theory that you can use to analyze or to critique the data that you've got with regard to that criterion. We've asked for up to 6 criteria. If you put one theory in each, you've got a total of 6 theories. That's probably too many. You've got 1,500 words in the original report. That's 250 words per criterion if you've got 6. You won't be able to go into anything in a massive amount of detail. So you'll choose which criteria, you'll choose how many words out of your 1500 to spend on each of the criteria, and you will do a theoretical analysis on maybe 2, 3 or 4, most likely not on all 6 because you don't have the time. But do make sure that you do get some theory in. Very, very, very rough rule of thumb, I would say, for at least 4 of the criteria, at least 1 theory. And the rubric is simply there to help you to organize that and make sure that you actually get the theory in. If you do that, then everything will be absolutely wonderful. So there we are, back to the blank OU Live sheet. It's a very straightforward exercise. It's an exercise in which you do depend on other people. It's an exercise in which you have to have your evaluative wits about you when you're looking at material on websites and from other sources. And finally, it's an exercise in which you need to remember to get the theory in. So there we are.